freaking Mishima, like with this bait switch, I like when he did this chapter, because while in the same motion of destroying the hopes and dreams that I had for this cool big jacked masked Tengu guy, in the same manner of what really would bother me, Mishima already fixed it. Again, this is one of those things it's always nice to know where, you know, a mangaka is able to look at like some form of decision they're going to make, some form of action that's completely throw the readers off in a way like this, that they go prepared. And I mean that by fact, when Mishima introduced these guys last chapter, and you know, their designs were very cool. It was really neat to see, like, okay, those guys that we just saw in B Squad, you know, everyone they were in group 6, this is group 1, so these guys must be way more powerful and what. Oh, we're seeing some of Nero's forces, and I did mention that these guys should be really powerful unless they aren't in that kind of like upper group with for Nero, because I did bring up like the idea that Nero having his own crew is one thing, but when he, you know, obviously, but when it comes down to his elite personal unit, that's to me where it's going to be more of like the stronger people for Nero, because these guys definitely obviously were stronger than what Shiki and their crew were capable of, you know, given how their fights went down and the fact these guys are obviously more powerful than those guys that they were able to just to defeat, because neither Orc, Brittany, or Mora were beaten easily. Like, they all had a level of difficulty. Shiki, though, did steamroll Orc once he entered his overdrive, but that is his current highest thing he can do. And, you know, if you have to bust out your best thing, then obviously you aren't, you know, you're not no-diffing them. You're just putting in enough degree of effort that you're like, okay, they're acknowledgeable, at least in that aspect of, like, how well they performed. Because the fact Orc needed to get, like, Shiki like went overdrive in order to beat Orc, at least gives Orc some form of like, you know, grace in post defeat, because there's the chance we'll never see him again. At least maybe not see him, maybe he'll be in a panel, but we probably won't get much for fights for him, but we could see. But like, these guys, I definitely like the Tengu guy. I made that very clear. I thought their designs were pretty cool. I thought the guy with all the weird pockets and containers on him, I figured he was going to be able to have all these like crazy weapons, or maybe like a chance for Mishima to introduce more tech. Because like when I saw these guys initially, I'll just go into it, since, you know, they're probably not going to ever make a return, I would assume. I saw this the weird guy who's not human at all. Clearly, I was like, okay, this is Mishima going to introduce some aliens, because Poseidon Nero has control over this whole cosmos, this whole section, so he's got to have more planets than just, you know, ones that are, you know, have humans on it, whatnot. And I was like, I saw this guy with all these pockets and weapons. It's like, oh, okay, well, he's probably going to be like introducing tech and whatnot. Maybe he'll be like a fight for Wise or Jin. But the main guy was like, oh, maybe he's just an ether gear user. I was like, okay, well, we get to see like an actual really powerful, experienced ether gear user in their full. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, because like right after this chapter started, like we at the very beginning, you know, we're seeing stuff with Muller and like Dr. Mueller and Hermit and Wise. For the most part, like their area was pretty easy to get through. It's like he escaped from prison, and here he is like with the robot body. I think the only thing about him that was more intriguing was the fact that he made a deal with Ziggy, so he's pretty much guarding this whole place to keep the virus going towards the robot people of Forestra. And in exchange, he gets to experiment on all the people. He's definitely crazy. He's definitely one of those characters who the author designs to be absolutely unredeemable, and how everyone just hates. Because I'm sure everybody, especially people who have made it this far in the series, sees this dude and just like, man, I can't wait for him to, you know, be defeated. He's not like one of those villains where you're like, man, I want him to, you know, I can't wait for him to lose because they're a bad guy, but I like him, so I want him to do well and, you know, have like a good display as an antagonist. Not this guy. This guy legitimately just have him explode. Like literally, they could just like in one page press a button, he shoots at an airlock and dies in the vacuum of space or something. I'd be perfectly happy. And it's this guy's just a, you know, garbage bad guy. He's outside of just like making a Hermit probably cry. Like he's probably not gonna amount to much. Like I'm hoping that at this part when we see Hermit like just remembering the torture she went through and like that kind of state she was in, this is a good opportunity, like I mentioned, for Wise to have like a big spotlight moment, maybe do some cool stuff with like the, you know, the relationship between Hermit and Wise. I think there's just a lot of potential here that could go down, besides just everyone getting to very happily see this dude destroyed, because I don't think anybody, you know, nobody wants this guy to be around. I'm sure everybody can say that. Even bad guys who like we don't like, from like a standpoint of like they're evil, like when you look at like Draken Joe, he was, you know, very scummy evil criminal, but at least he was cool in terms of being this space crime lord villain. Whereas like nobody cares about Dr. Mueller. Everything Dr. Mueller does is something that everyone wants to smash him for, because like his bad stuff, when you compare it to like Draken Joe when he just did something super evil and dark, it was done in a way that made him menacing, and you understood more about, he is the villain, he's the bad guy, he's evil, but at the same time you can look at a villain and think that can be kind of cool, even if it, you know, what they're doing is wrong. Whereas like Mueller is just like, anytime he's doing something dark, it's not like done in like a cool dark way, it's always just in like a, wow, we hate you, like. So I can't wait to see this guy, you know, get destroyed, and Hermit get the well-deserved opportunity to watch this guy suffer. So that's going to be really good. Like, that part I thought was just, you know, pretty quick to go through. I really am hoping that we see Wise get back up and fix things. But the stuff with Colleen, I'm very curious about, because she's like, Clarice says that she sent somebody by. There's like somebody bad is here. You know, her whole, you know, her whole emotional state conundrum goes off. She starts to sweat. The robot starts to freak out. My question is it somebody else, or is she speaking specifically about the, what is it, the Interstellar, what is it? I'm trying to remember what they're called again, and it's Interstellar Union Army, I think, UIA, I think that's how their thing is pronounced. I'm just going through it again because I forget their, yeah, Interstellar Union Army. I forget theirs because we haven't had really anything go on with these guys at all. Like, these guys got, like, we know Justice, like, we first saw him back when the original poster came out for Eden Zero. But these other guys, we got introduced more than 100 chapters ago. Like, when Shiki was having that little scuffle against the Parasite Elsie, that's when we got introduced to, like, Creed and Justice. I guess, no, they were on the cover. I think they were on the poster, too. Yeah, they were on the poster for, you know, for Eden Zero, so I guess that's at least something. But these guys haven't done anything, and they're not like Justice, where we can kind of get a vague idea of what his abilities are, and now we even have like something maybe we can work with when it comes to like Elsie's abilities and whatnot, so you can assume that Justice are going to be the same, because Elsie's abilities are like a combination of Urza's and Jalal's. It's like she's draining the ether off of the planet, she's getting a new form in the process, like Urza's magic, but then in execution she's casting, you know, spells that are tied though to Jalal, but further up in Mishima's mythos, all the way, you know, back to like Gravemaster and stuff. But this guy, like, Victory's, I think is pretty cool. I think his is a pretty good spot for being like a character that is not gonna have a lot of spotlight. I think we can all just assume this. Like, he seemingly just has some like really big buff giant like form, very, you know, big brute heavy hitter is my guess. So his, I'm guessing this is going to be for the most part the extent of his, though we don't know anything about like overdrive or anything with him. This is still something that's good, because if it, you know, way later on in the series, you know, or if we were meeting big shot members of the Interstellar Union Army, it'd be different, because we, you know, the higher somebody is on the chain, the better powers you expect, especially when you have like a series that, you know, it has broken abilities, and from a mangaka who, whenever he decides to get really big and broken, he goes really big and broken. So I assume the Araxion Space Interstellar's Ether Gears are all going to be really good. This guy is just good from a standpoint of like, we'll probably get a lot of showings for him, because if his just gets bigger physical strength, easy to show off. It'll be very easy to show off, and he won't have that unfortunate crutch that Makarov had, where Makarov started out way more powerful, and then just like through the natural progression of the main cast and other characters and threats and stuff arriving, you know, they had this character who was powerful at the start, but he was, you know, he was at the end of his line of getting powerful, and then everybody just kind of slowly eclipsed him, and then obviously where we're at now. But this guy isn't like a big deal. Like, not Justice. Victory is, I mean, he's in a big deal's a group, So this should be easy for him just to display this power. I do like his ether lines a lot. I like that his look like they're like lined of where like muscles are and stuff. I guess I would assume that it kind of looks like that to me, at least out of the shape and the way that's kind of presented. But his whole thing, actually, I think one of my favorite things is like when he comes in, he says, "This is what victory looks like." And we know that all of them have code names, so I'm guessing that's what his is. His is like, he took the name because he probably thinks like anytime he goes out, he's going to defeat his opponents. I'm curious what the threshold is for like how powerful he is, though. Like, is he gonna, is like, if he clashed with Overdrive Shiki, like the current Shiki we know, would he be able to do it? Like, would it be like stalemate? Would he win? Would he lose? That one's like a question, because like there's no way he's gonna beat someone like Justice, but like I could see, well, actually no, because victory just one shot a lot of these guys. And even I was gonna say like we can't use them considering we don't know like how much more powerful Beast 1 is compared to Beast 6. But even if they're the exact same, like even if you go by like they're just slightly stronger, maybe they have better powers, like maybe their abilities are just way better, maybe they have that hacks or something. But even if you consider their stats like the same, victory's still one shot, seemingly one shot these guys, assuming they don't get up and, you know, they're not you know, they don't get out before this is all over. Completely a question mark or no, because I did say in the last review there's only a couple people that logically would defeat these guys in the span of time, because we know that like the main cast, the Eden Zero crew, like they're too beaten and worn down to fight these dudes. But Justice and I guess Justice crew, I don't think I gave Victory or Creed enough. I still don't think I gave them enough credit, because I don't think I mentioned them. Like I mentioned Elsie and Justice, like they should be able to beat these guys just fine. But at the same time, like I knew these guys were here. I just didn't really think about how powerful they could be. But like I said at the start of the video, one thing that Mishima did I really like, and I'm happy he did this, because you know when you get these brand new characters, like we just got like these Beast Squad guys, Beast 1 squad guys last chapter, and then they have getting, I would assume, defeated. Maybe they end up getting out. Let's just assume defeated for now. And it's like you would regularly be like, well then how are these guys a threat? Like we just had these more powerful people show up and then they got one shot like super easy. Like, you know, when you get to that kind of line of like start to question the threat level. But like I said, keep in mind these guys being able to do that, it makes sense given like how powerful they are. Like they're directly adjacent to Justice, and I would assume Justice is around level with Erasion Sace Galactica. Like if you took Justice versus Nero, I would assume that they're somewhere around equal. Maybe Nero's slightly more powerful, but obviously like if you want to get someone like Nero, you have to fight like his entire military, you know, the fact that he's got an entire cosmos. It's like I assume like the scary thing about Draken Joe is like his connections and his knowledge and how many tricks he's probably got up his sleeve that he's acquired. My belief is each of them are going to be slightly different in that aspect of why they might not want to mess with them. I mean, them being powerful is already a thing, but I mean, like, you don't want to go into war with like an entirely different cosmos, or like, you know, Draken Joe just being hard to get to anyway, probably hard, just as hard to you know, combat and from a law and order standpoint, not like them just fighting him, because I'm sure like people like Jaguar would be fine just kind of going through him to defeat him, because I think we'd assume that he's the most powerful out of the Erasion Sace Interstellar. But at this, I actually I did want to retract one statement. I guess it could be just an upgrade, but real quick, I wanted to say that when they were talking about the B Squad, they mentioned this is B Squad 1, but they're ranked below Oceans, and I guess Oceans is a title that are like Draken Joe's serious, or sorry, Draken Joe, Poseidon Nero's serious people, because Justice even says like if he hasn't deployed Oceans, he must not think this is a very serious situation yet. So like I said, I'm guessing that's going to be his elite group. That's like his, you know, Spriggan 12, his 7 Kin of Purgatory, you know, his followers of Seraph, was it Seraphine or you know what I mean? The bad guy's personal unit rather than just somebody that works for him. And again, you can look at, you know, like obvious one. You look at, you know, Fairy Tail, Zeraf had his entire, the totality of his military. But when it came to, you know, there were other groups in there. Like we saw, like Nineheart had his own like little group, but when it came to like the ones directly below the big bad, similar to like ones any form adjacent to whatever's at the top, is going to be way more powerful. So those are the guys that should have much better displays. Granted, any number 1 B Squad should still be pretty powerful for the main cast, but these ocean guys, I guess, are going to be the real big deals. They're like the big meat. Those guys must be the equivalent of like Elsie's like personal unit. Because I would assume when you have all these characters that have titles and positions that should indicate they're somewhere around each other in power level and stuff, I would assume the same thing when it comes to like their personal guard people, like fodder, like throwaway bad guys. Who cares about that? Like, they're usually not going to be anyone memorable, and it's going to be like, who cares if something happens to them? But it's still enough that I think these guys really deserve something. Because like the B Squad 1, I like the designs. I like, as I mentioned, like I was hoping like these dudes would at least get something. Like each of the squads, two of one squad, just different groups, I guess. Like the B Squad guy, like we didn't get to see what the B Squad 1 guy's powers were. Like what were their abilities? That would be smart of Mishima, where he's like, I want to have some guys like just lose and get a power level flex for like victory and stuff, but I don't want to throw any of my good members, and I don't want them to fight just fodder. So it's like, okay, I'll have B Squad 1. We'll never know what their powers. I'll say, save you some creative time and everything, and then move on to whatever comes next. So like the remaining portion of the chapter is like mostly you got a nice interaction with, an attempted interaction between Shiki and Justice. Like Justice like noted that that theirs have a similar ether level, or not that similar. I was gonna say similar ether level, but it's Victory said he could sense an unusual ether, and it comes down to like that they were able to kind of figure out the Demon King code and stuff that was on Elsie's ship back when, again, Shiki fought the Parasite Elsie, and Shiki's like, oh, Elsie, cool, do you want to be friends? I did really like the part when he said that him and his grandpa weren't friends, because it's just a funny statement the way he kind of looks at all things. But Justice doesn't want anything to do with Elsie, but not only that, he thinks anybody related to Elsie is a problem. And he's like, okay, this is gonna be beef. Shiki, I think the only thing that Shiki's gonna get out of this is he's gonna have to get Homura. Maybe he actually lets B Squad 1 out in the process, but he can't. I don't think he can end this whole portion of Forestra without at least getting Homura back, because otherwise we won't see Homura for a long time. Because I get like, even if this is just like 3 guys, like we don't even know like how many more people are in their ship or what. Clearly Justice is powerful, clearly Victory is powerful, so like these guys have to be strong. Even in like the level of like, we know they're strong, we don't know the degree, but they have to be pretty powerful just after this chapter. So I would assume that if Shiki gets Homura back, and it's going to be through trickery, and that is fully possible. One thing that has been consistently shown for Shiki, as well as in the crossover when Mishima even had him compared to his other main characters, Shiki's thing has always been his level of quick movement and just movement in general, movement ability. It's like, even the easiest way, like you go look at some of his fights, or just for instance, again, Natsu and Shiki's like short scuffle. Natsu's way more like can take a hit, and put out like heavy damage, but Shiki's thing is just how weird he moves and how like essentially he can move in any direction. And it's not the same even as flying. He's essentially shifting his gravity so one way is like his down, like whatever way he's standing becomes his floor. Like, just imagine like him, if he's standing on a wall, it's not he's using gravity to make him stick there, it's the wall, as to his perspective, is the floor. Again, it's weird to think about it. It's really cool. So I want to see more of what Mishima has just kind of laid out for Shiki, because main character powers are main character powers. They have to have way more thought about them, and we have to see different techniques to show Mishima has been thinking about. Just Shiki and Wormholes, thumbs up please. Other than that, though, I think the only things really to note, like the Justice fighting Shiki thing, that's something that I think a lot of people thought was inevitable. I mean, that's gonna be pretty cool. I don't expect the fight to kind of go anywhere for real in this one, like in this bout, because 1, Justice is definitely way more powerful. 2, Shiki's is still damaged and drained enough that he's not at full power. But even if it was at full power, I don't see him taking Justice in this at this level, at least. Justice definitely seems like a cut above the rest, and we do know that he's a Rascal and Sace Interstellar. Like it wouldn't surprise me if the only member of this Interstellar that is stronger than him is Cougar, or sorry, Jaguar. Why do I call him Cougar? He's the only one that I would guess is stronger than Justice. Just to get an assumption. Either way, though, the only other thing I wanted to note, because I did like seeing just like the parts with Justice, obviously, and I really liked the whole Oceans thing. I thought that was really good, because otherwise I'd be bummed. It's like you had this B Squad 1 guy group show up and then they get one shot. I'm gonna be like, man, I just want to see what Nero's big people are like. But if this, maybe this is like right before you get to like the big shots. This is like, yeah, you have fodder, the people wash over the fodder, and then you have the big shots. Like that's actually probably be like, big shots are like Squad 1, and then big shots are probably like whatever Nero's personal unit is going to be called, these Ocean guys. But the other thing I did want to mention, just because I did really like it, and I mentioned it in a different video, Daichi was previously, from at least off the top of my head, my favorite Ether Gear design. I liked that it was like these little growing plants, and they're in a way that like at the end they kind of like you know, blossomed out. They kind of like had those little 2 leaves just kind of stick at the end. I do think after this, Creed's Ether Gear is my favorite so far. I like that it's simple, like just in the general design, but like how it's implemented, it just looks really cool. It's essentially chains, and then there's some ether lines that seem to connect to it, like, and then like kind of go around along outside it. So my guess when it comes to like these guys though is like, you have Creed is probably, you know, their apprehension guy, probably has some like of these utility hacks abilities. Victory is probably, you know, their big heavy just strength and you know, brute force guy. And Justice is, I would assume, their overall just kind of ace person, because not only should he be powerful, he should be extremely skilled with like a very powerful Ether Gear. So if he doesn't like have a much higher position, these guys, it'd be really weird. Like, he's ranked higher than them, but I mean, like, just in general display, like I'm fully expecting one of those scenes where it's like, if you had 2 of them use similar attack, the similar attacks, Justice would be bigger, and then the other guy would be like, well, of course this is going to be more powerful than mine. Kind of like another Fairy Tail reference, not the same, kind of a bigger thing, but like back when Kagura used gravity magic, and you had you know, you had Ridley, and she's just like, oh well, yeah, of course Kagura's, you know, taught me, and so like when you have stuff like that, I think it just kind of, one, adds a little bit of extra hype onto whichever character you're using, but it also kind of just gives them a really good like kind of general display, and at the same time it gives them a what at least what I would consider a nice enough way to build off of both characters, which and then at the same time have also be humble. I think that's one of the things, because obviously like the lesser character, you know, acknowledging the more powerful one like that, like very humbly, or sorry, Risley, not Isley, or not Ridley, Isley. I always get that one mixed up. It's like the spelling for Rufus's last name, for me at least. But outside of that though, comment below, tell me your thoughts are about like this whole chapter. Like I thought for the most part, like I enjoyed it. This was something that I've been wanting to see a long time, just Justice in action. The Mueller stuff, I can't wait for him to get destroyed. Like him, I'm very excited about. I'm slightly curious with the clean stuff, because it could easily just be like the Union. Oh, that was one thing I wanted to know. Just like if Clean and Jin's stories are related to the Interstellar Union Army, that would be really cool, because we haven't had much of kind of story ties to it. So it would be cool to see, like, you know, oh, it shows some bad members of them, and maybe they're, you know, corrupt, and there's some, you know, good people like Justice, maybe there's some bad people in there that cause terrible, you know, misfortunes and whatnot. Sucks these B Squad 1 guys didn't even get a name, though. I thought that was a more unfortunate thing for them. But other than that, comment below, tell me your thoughts about this chapter, and tell me your thoughts about what's coming up in Eden Zero. I mean, I granted a little bit extra just because I was very happy with the whole Oceans thing. It would have been very easy to bum me out over like these guys getting beaten up if that wasn't in the chapter. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, friend, like button, subscribe, and check out my other videos. For that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening.